Hello, my friends. Today we are out in the cold with a bunch of snow. It's supposed to snow about 6 inches today, so it's going to be a good day. There's a lot of talk, and we've talked about a lot of the problems that are going on in the realms of our society around the world, and there's a lot that is going on that does not meet the eye. But what we have yet to talk about is what we must do. There's a lot of people that talk about the problems, but there's not much of a solution. And a solution for something like this, something so large and ingrained, is gotta be something pretty crazy. Some people talk about revolution, kind of like we did in the 1770s. But the situation was a bit different. We actually had the ability to win. And if you look at the situation today, I don't see any case where we can win within the system. We had some opportunities back in the day, not in revolution, but in correcting the system, like with the Convention of States, but we didn't do that. We were afraid. And with, we just gave up power. We gave up power because, we were told to by Christians who believed in that in a few years Christ would come back, and all we needed to do is hunker down, hide, and pray. And we can still hide and pray. I'm in a section of the country where that is the norm, to hide and pray and hope that no one sees you. And then when the inevitable comes, the best. But there is no infrastructure set up to endure it. There is no community because everybody's in fear. Everybody's afraid of their neighbor. And oddly enough, there's a bunch of legalism. So what is the solution? We have to consider, how can we actually win? And that's what we're going to start talking about. How can we win? And it's not by revolution. No. You can't beat the American government, not as it stands. You can't even beat them in the ballot box as it stands. The people are too entrenched for that. So there's got to be a different solution. And the Lord always provides a way of escape. And you might say, well, what if we hide? What if we hide and just forget about it? Well, I counter with a parable about the talents. The Lord gave 3 men different amounts of talents. And one of his talents he made 10. Another man made 5. Another man did not make any. And what did God do with these people? Well, the first one, he gave 10 cities to rule. The second one, he gave 5 cities to rule. And the last one, he said, well, why did you not at least give my money to the people that give out loans and get usury on it? Now, bear in mind, usury was an evil thing that was practiced in the day that Christ was. And usury was only done, it was like pig farming. It was wicked. It was like tax collecting. It was not a good thing. So it was like the lowest of a low. You could have at least done this. And yet he didn't. And what happened to him, he was cast out. He lost what he had. And that's what's going to happen to us if we don't find a path forward. A path for victory, of not living in fear, and of seeking God's will in this world. And like it or not, that means seeking power. Power under his will. Power in him. So what does it mean to win? Well, there's been various Christian uprisings in the world and various Christian efforts. Some of the best and most famous are the ones in the United States, where the Pilgrims came over, the Puritans after them, and they set up a country that served the Lord in His goodness. There are other ones that were very much not successful, like in England. And some of the things that happened with them is that they were divided. They couldn't agree on anything. They had no central leader. They were contrasted by some of the successful ones, where they had a central leader. They had a way to rally. They had a way to not divide themselves. And it was quite different. But the majority of them, they bickered. They divided themselves on small things. And they had no way of moving forward. And they were also suppressed by the system. They were suppressed by the system that they were in, and that prevented them or harried them from actually having success, actually organizing and coming up with a good system. So we have to make sure that we have the ability to organize, the ability to not be hemmed in by ourselves and by the outside forces. That's how we win. It's only a small part of how we win, but it's how we win. So how do we win? Well, with the revolution in 1776, 1775, they had something that we don't. They had distance. They had the ability to have power centers and separate themselves from the system. In America, we do not have that. I'm out in the boonies, and the power is still here. And anywhere you go in the United States, it's going to be there. Some places a little less than others, but the spirit of legalism, the spirit of division is very strong in this country, and the devil's working overtime to keep it that way. He's also trying to keep us from moving forward with any type of solution. And those that we put into power, like Donald Trump, for better or for worse, he is incapable of actually fixing the system. And that is for many reasons, not just because of the Democrats. It's because of the systems put in place that have been in place for over 100 years. We lost our power a long time ago, and we're just now kind of realizing that. Some people still don't. So how do we actually win? We have to have the ability to have distance. And that means we have to find a different place besides the United States to have this. So how does it mean to create distance, to create a place where we can have power, to where we can not bicker and put ourselves in a system that actually works? Well, it means that we have to seek a frontier, seek a place that no one else wants to go. I looked at South America. I actually went there. I went to Peru, one of the better places in South America, and I found it to be completely incompatible for what we need. The spirit of oppression is great there, but they're angry. They're angry at the wrong thing. I left Peru just before a bunch of protests came out, and for good reason. The government had stolen their future, and still is stealing their future because of outside interests mostly, and personal gain. And people being brought into the city, promised many things, but when I went to the city, it wasn't even fit for tourists. It was nasty. And the outer part of the city was totally in shambles. It looked like it had been bombed out, or a great disaster had gone through there. It looked horrible. And I went into the country, and I found that even in the better part of the country, people were hoping to go to the city. They were happier in the country. Children were playing in the country. They weren't doing that in the city. But they were poor, dirt poor, and They were afraid of me. They were afraid of Americans. They were afraid of outsiders. In the city, they were angry. They spit on me. Children did. I didn't offend them, but they hated me. Oh, they loved my money. Of course they did. They've been taught to, conditioned to. So South America is not the right place, but we need a frontier. A place that no one wants to be, but has the potential for a future where we can build power and build unity in Christ, where we can build a system that has the best opportunity for victory. For what are we after? We're after victory. We're after a way to win. Not just survive, not just cope, not just wait, not just hide, but to actually freaking win. That's what I'm after. Victory. And let God's will be done. We also have to question what type of system we want. What type of system works. We have been under the American system, the experimental system, for a long time. Democracy itself is a system that will not last for very long. And the United States has lasted a good long while, but it basically lost its strength at least 100 years ago. And then it went into a lot of different things. 50 years ago, 75 years ago, we pretty much lost our way. And we've been getting further away from it ever since. So what type of power system do we want? What type of system does the greatest good with the most chance of success? The United States system creates division. Any democracy creates division. A republic is great, but it also is limited. So we have to figure this out. And like with our past, what we did in the revolution, we came up with a unique system that actually built off the lessons of the past. And we did pretty good. What are some of the takeaways? Democracy doesn't work. A type of society has to be built on duty. And one of the best ways to create a system of duty is through Christendom and through a system of feudalism. It's not perfect by any means, but it can be tweaked to better suit the needs of the people. Things like having guilds to where you can have some barrier to entry so that not just everybody can do a thing, and so you don't have overflow of the market. That's what some of us were promised in college, is that we'd be able to do this thing if we studied. But what happened? We found out the market was overflowed, that we couldn't get a job because too many people were doing it. And yet we still had to pay our debts. We still had to pay the loan sharks. And that ain't good. So we need to learn from our history. We need to learn from the greater history and come up with a system that actually gives us the most opportunity to have liberty, freedom, and be obligated to duty under Christ. And that our future is bound to the will of God.